Half a day and good morning, everyone. Today we are holding this press conference in reference to resolution numbers 164-35, which is relative to urging for the support of Governor Lourdes Leon Guerrero to call for a pause to clearing, pre-construction, data recovery, and construction activities related to the U.S. Department of the Navy's proposed live fire training range complex at Northwest Field, or Tailalo, adjacent to Pt.1, in order to ensure the protection of the environment and historic and cultural resources of the northern coastline of Guam. I'd like to thank Senator Terlahi and Senator Perez for their collaboration with me on this resolution, and all of my colleagues that have for their support on this resolution. I'd like to give my colleagues an opportunity to speak on this resolution and the reasons why they feel that they would support this resolution. So I'll start with Senator Terlahi.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Just very briefly, we've always known that the Pt.1 area is very culturally significant. It's unique, not just on Guam, but in the region and in the world. It's a place where you can find an entire village, and you can trace its history over different periods and the way that they lived over those different periods. It's got significant wildlife and endangered species and many other things that make it very beautiful. The firing range that is being built up on top was assessed and was found to have 100 historic sites before they started to clear. Now that they are beginning clearing, they are finding more cultural sites, including recently a Lusong, and I support a pause so that we can allow professionals to assess the cultural findings and historic properties and to reassess whether this is an area that should be preserved in place.
Thank you. Senator Perez.
Buenas and half a day. I think this resolution is important because we stand as a united front in protecting our natural resources and the cultural resources. And we all know that Pt.1 and Tailalo area are critical to our heritage, and we need to protect this. It's like a national monument. It doesn't make sense to destroy an area that is the root of our heritage. And I've spoken on this on many occasions, and I'm just glad that my colleagues are here today as a united front on this aspect. And we hope to raise consciousness of how valuable this place is and why we all need to stand behind this and protecting this area.
Senator Taidagui.
Thank you. Buenas and good morning. I stand in full support of this resolution. And this is not about whether we support the military or not support it. The military is going on. This is simply about a pause. That's what we're here today, about a pause. And I've been assured with my colleagues as well that this will not end here. As of today, we're going to move forward with other meetings. We're going to be well versed on this to ensure that the support of this legislature is doing the same thing as supporting our Magahagan, to support a pause. And that's why we're here today. Thank you so much.
Senator Pt.1 Terlahi.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I stand in support of this bill. We had several discussions regarding the time frame that that the process is gonna happen. They had mentioned something like 40 days. They had mentioned something like 60 days. And I think that we continue that pass until such time that everything is cleared. They had mentioned that there's certain areas that they're going to fence off. And I would recommend that the whole entire area for the firing range would be investigated until such time that the environmentalists have come out with clearance that there's no artifacts and everything is cleared. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Marsh Taitano.
Hafide and Mananasitus. I stand here in full support of the resolution. I am pro-Guam. I am pro our community. I am pro our grandchildren's heritage. That has to be primary at what we do. Since the beginning, my position has been that there is a difference between following the letter of the law versus following the intent of the law. And sometimes it hasn't always been even following the letter of the law, such as what happened at Pocket. They had to go back to the drawing board because they had missteps. The intent of the law is very hard to pin down. This is exactly why they are rewriting the National Environmental Protection Act and the National Historic Act at this moment. The processes do not guarantee that the best choice is made. Perhaps that's what some of us think. The process has been done, that means the best choice is made. It does not mean the best choice is made. If we look at the document that they produced in Chapter 5, they state very clearly in their own words, without qualification, bulldozing the conservation area that is Tailalo above Letexen and cutting that off for access is their most destructive choice. As I mentioned, it destroys a conservation area. That should never be allowed. A conservation area holds something in trust for a community. And that's exactly what they're proposing to bulldoze and clear off the face of the earth. At the same time, Tailalo is a part of the villages that are below it, Letexen, if not Hinapsan, and so forth. So if you're destroying that, you are destroying parts of those villages. So for those, amongst many other reasons, I definitely call for at least a pause.
Thank you, Senator Marsh-Taichung. Senator Rangel?
Thank you. My support for this resolution is simple. I believe we owe this to the Chamorro culture. We owe this pause to the annals of history, and we owe this to future generations to ensure that thousands of years of history are not wiped out in a matter of mere months. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rangel. Senator San Augustine?
I support this pause. Number one, we need to always remind ourselves that outside the gate, when anything is found, there's an immediate pause or a halt on any activity. And that same practice should apply inside the gate. We need to look at our history, whatever may be endangered, and then from there we can move forward. And when the question is how long is the pause? As long as is needed to make sure that all the research is done and that it satisfies the people of Guam. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator San Augustine. Senator Castro?
Thank you, Madam Chair. After conferring with my colleagues in the 35th Guam Legislature, the Governor and Lieutenant Governor, I am convinced that there's sufficient information for the establishment of a special investigative committee to validate or invalidate claims that the United States Department of Defense has either removed or destroyed cultural artifacts, human remains, and/or critical habitat. Let there be no mistake that I am in support of the military buildup, but not at the expense of the desecration of our Chamorro ancestors or at the systematic wiping out of our Chamorro identity. It is my commitment to get to the bottom of this, and although not explicit in the resolution as introduced, I have received the assurances of a majority of my colleagues here today that this special investigative committee will be impaneled. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Castro. Senator Muña?
Thank you. Thank you again for being here this morning. I sit here with a majority of this body in support of the pause as one united people to work together and collaborate with all of us at the table to protect and preserve our culture. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Munoz. Speaker Barnes.
Sitzus Masi, Vice Speaker, and Manana Sitzus, many of God's blessings to all of you here. Before I share my reasons for supporting the resolution, I want to acknowledge, ladies and gentlemen, that the Public Policy Institute interns will begin their meetings today with a complete syllabus for their program, and I want to say that this is the first-hand experience that the interns will receive this morning at this public notice process, hearing process, but I want to thank them for being here this morning so they can have first-hand look at what we do as policymakers. Ladies and gentlemen, I share the same sentiments with all of my colleagues up here. I think that it is our due responsibility as your policymaker that when there are additional findings, when there are additional concerns, and when there's additional need to protect our land for our future children, for our children and our future generation, I think that it's important that we take this time for a pause to make sure that as this military buildup is going to happen, that the people accept what is provided for them on this journey. And with the additional findings that have been noted, I think that there is reason to ask for this pause at this time. So I want to thank the Vice Speaker and all our colleagues here for the efforts that we have moving forward on this resolution. Saina Masi.
Sitzus Masi, Speaker. I just want to say for myself, this resolution is a very critical part of our history. We want to send a message. I would like to send a message to let the people of Guam know that we are not sleeping on these issues that are affecting our heritage, our legacy, our history. And as island leaders today, we have inherited the responsibility of protecting and defending our people's history. This resolution marks our commitment to preserving our environment, our land, and our history. We want to ensure the Department of Defense and Navy stand with us in this effort as we continue to work together. I'd like to thank all of you today for coming, and if you have any questions, we will end the press conference and you can ask the senators individual questions. Thank you very much. Have a good day and God bless.
Well, I'd like to ask the Vice Speaker, the military has indicated that in all 9 sites that have been discovered since December, they have paused. Archaeologists has been brought in. The areas of those 9 sites have been fenced. So why a pause? Since they have paused.
You don't have, okay, initially for me, I would have liked to ask for a halt. However, I took a step back and I understood that our strongest efforts matter when we stand united. And so being that, we are calling for a pause. Now you inquired that your question was that the military does pause. And
They said they did. They
Right.
issued a statement Friday, and they
Right.
said, we have paused and we have fenced all of these areas that have recently been discovered.
Right.
In line with the programmatic agreement.
Right, so what is the pause? Is the pause 48 hours, we pull out as many samples as we can, and then we clear the whole area? And so really this is the question. This is the question where we can't just stand and see that our areas are being cleared out without going through the different levels of archaeological techniques and methodology. Because when you come across an area, better practices is you see the tertiary, the initial layer of the whatever you are looking at, the fossil, the pottery, the bones, but you still have to dig further down into the different levels of the earth to examine the area further. And my understanding is they take the samples on what they see surface value without going down, clearing out the site, going down 100 feet deep to really investigate and document perhaps the archaeological findings that were there, the bones that were there.
But the military says they are following the programmatic agreement. Are you saying they are not? Are you saying they have violated it?
The programmatic agreement allows, in certain circumstances, upon inadvertent discoveries for a 48-hour pause. They send information to the government of Guam, and they're supposed to have a back and forth. The issue is that this is on one particular site, and as you said, perhaps they've paused on some of the new sites, but on some of the sites they have proceeded, and they continue to clear the rest of the area, where we already know that they've had so far 9 inadvertent discoveries. They are, in addition to the 100 sites that were already documented in this place, and so they continue to clear. So that's the concern, is this continued clearing. And the concern is also that in one of the sites that was paused a couple weeks ago, when the SHPO went there, it's been cleared now. And that is pursuant to the programmatic agreement, and that is the issue, is that they are allowed to do that in the programmatic agreement, and clearing the data, clearing the artifacts, clearing the lusong, the lati. That's what happened at Magua. They cleared the area and they did not preserve it in sight. But the intent of the programmatic agreement was that these historic sites would be avoided. And so that's why we are asking, in addition to the programmatic agreement, for an additional pause, so that the sites can be better assessed and that the community can be brought along with those assessments, so that we do not have another situation like Magua, where they removed lati, lusong, put it over to some staging area, and now we are finding, with 2 more additional inadvertent discoveries, that Magua was actually bigger than they originally thought. And now they are faced with, we've destroyed part of Magua, what are we going to do with the rest of Magua, right? And so that's really why we are asking.
Preserve in sight, you said. Would you like to see the programmatic agreement changed to require findings be preserved in sight rather than removed and preserved as it is now?
I think that's ideal for the government of Guam. It says in there right now that that is what the goal was to avoid disturbance of historical sites. But when it was unavoidable, that they would then clear it. And that's the problem, is that there is that's the problem, is there's that flexibility, and the military has on the record declared that these are unavoidable. That's the issue.
So you'd like to see the programmatic agreement changed? Or revised?
Whatever it would take to assure the community that when there are important historical sites, that they will be avoided.
And I'd like to add to that, it was articulated very well by the previous senator. This programmatic agreement that we have in place right now is the first such comprehensive programmatic agreement that our government has signed. And so through this, there have been lessons learned. And so my stance would be, and I think it builds on the similar stances that have been mentioned, that we need to continually work at improving it. There is that language in the programmatic agreement that we can address issues, but that we need to be taking those lessons learned, and we need to be improving it so that we're continuing to better safeguard our community's heritage.
Are you calling for a pause in the entire buildup or just on the firing range? And if so, for how long?
Right now in the resolution, we've addressed the call for a pause within the firing range. Okay, so can we just perhaps give another media entity another opportunity to ask a question?
Oh, God. I'm short. So what are